Minecraft 1.21 came out a few days ago. Naturally, it's time to update our mod to the latest version. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Before we start the process of updating our mod, let's see how can we find and understand the changes between different versions of Minecraft and Fabric Mod Loader. If you come into the Fabric website itself, there is a section for blog posts. And most of the time, when a new version of Minecraft comes out, there will be a blog post talking about those versions. For example, in 1.20.5 and 1.20.6, there was a blog post that talked about network changes and item NBT related changes and few more things that we will talk about in future. However, today we are talking about 1.21. So if we look at the blog post for 1.21, we see two sections. One is fabric changes and one is Minecraft changes. When you see something that is related to fabric itself, you can go and talk with developers of fabric about changes and if you have something to say about it. However, if you see anything happen under Minecraft changes, please don't bother fabric developers about them because they have absolutely no control over it. Now let's talk from the start to the finish. Few different things happen that are dotted here. Normally these means that you don't have to do anything, but the most important one for us right now is this. If you are defining some tags for common namespace, that would be C, they will be automatically translated to English. You will understand it in few seconds later when we are talking about translations for tags. However, the rest has nothing to do with us. Just know that finally, Herobrine is being removed. Tag translation. You know that we defined our own tags. Now we can put entries inside the language file related to the translation of those tags. I will show you how did I add these. However, they are saying that these are not used in the API itself, but if you have a mod that is showing recipes, for example, they may use these translations. I assume REI would be one of those mods that heavily use these things. There are some breaking changes related in Fabric. First of all, the package Fabric models -0 was deprecated, finally removed. In the API, equipment slot provider dot get preferred equipment slot now passed a living entity inside it. Two methods are being removed. One from entity can use slot and fabric item dot attribute modifiers. And now they are using default components API, the thing that came in the 20.6. The registry sync now freezes in earlier point. They are enlightening you that this does not affect mods that register things in mod initializer. Well, we are doing it inside mod initializer. However, some specific mods need more advanced entries inside registration and they may need to register something before mod initializer. This part is related to them. And they are saying that make sure to register everything during mod initializer as we are doing it right now. Minecraft changes. First one is identifier. Remember we had this new identifier, mod ID, and then the key, or new identifier with the whole thing, and new identifier for Minecraft, or identifier of something. These things are changed. For new identifier of our mod ID and the key, now we use identifier of the mod ID and the key. For new identifier of a string, we say identifier.of the same string. For vanilla, now we have identifier.of vanilla. And for those that were using the of for the namespace, now we have identifier.try parse the namespace and the key. They are guiding you to have your own identifier static class that handles things because even if in future this will change, you will have to go and change only one place. And this is how we had done it from early days of development. However, we will see that Our mod recipe provider was using new identifier of Minecraft. We had to change lots of things there. I had done all of these behind the scene before recording the video, and I will talk about them because it was just time consuming copy pasting things. And when you understand this, it's over. The bigger change from Minecraft came from enchantments. They are saying enchantments are now data driven. Stop right there. What does it mean for something to be data driven? It means that before this version, we were creating our enchantments by code, and they are saying they were hard coded, means that it was a Java class. Instead, they are now using data packs. In other words, JSON files. So how do you define the JSON? How we can find information about the JSON? If you come inside Google and search Minecraft Wiki Enchantments 1.21 JSON, the very first entry will talk about the JSON file, its structure and different sections and the values that can be used. Everything is here. And sooner or later, we will come and take a look at this page and develop our own enchantment using JSON. However, you may ask yourself, can't we use DataGen for this? Right now, we don't have a dedicated entry inside DataGen from Fabric. Keep it in mind that everything related to JSON files can be abstracted using the base DataGen system. It will be a bit more involved, and you may want to take a look at it for yourself. Right now, if Fabric is not providing an easier way for us, I prefer to develop the JSON myself. Then they say that enchantment helper on target damage will do something on the target, and enchantment helper modifying knockback, for example, is modifying a value, and they are defining that enchantments will do one of these two. And if you want to check something, you can check enchantment helper has any enchantments in the stack and stuff. Then they talk about the code structure of enchantments and give you an example here, adding the new enchantments and some changes inside Fabric related this whole thing about enchantments. Again, you can sit back and read the whole thing. Teleportation. Oh, this one is important for me because right now we have the elevator block, we have the tuner, and in future we have the player teleporter. It says that both intra-dimensional and cross-dimensional teleportations can now be performed using entity.teleport2. Now, entity.teleport2 previously was named move to world. So the name changed, and both teleportation types now is handled by this. Teleport target now contains the destination word and position. Also, fabric dimensions is deprecated and removed because the entity teleport will do the same thing. Some changes are related to data packs. You can sit back and read. Now rendering changes, although we don't have many things related to rendering right now. In future, maybe I will have head-up display, in short HUD, and graphical user interface, in short GUI. They are saying that head-up display render callback, HUD render callback, now passes render tick counter instead of tick delta. And tick delta is now retrievable from this tick counter. Also, word rend context had a tick delta and limit time. These are replaced with the tick counter itself. Also, some internal changes. When they say internal refactoring, means that they may have absolutely no effect on your mod unless you are doing really crazy stuff. But you can sit back and read the whole thing again. Now, miscellaneous Fabric codec provider now has a new constructor that takes registry key instead of the directory name. This was the whole change, and you can sit back and read and understand. As always, you have to go and download a template so that you get the versions and different changes in build.gradle, build.properties, and this resource, fabric.mod.json. I had done everything. The fabric loom is the same. There was something that we had to change and I totally forgot. And those were here on Java. This will happen on your mod build, final build. This was saying 17, it should have been changed to 21 in previous updates, but because we didn't build our mod, we didn't encounter any problems. Now we are changing it properly. Also, there was this line that said 21 and we already changed it in previous version. Other than that, right now in build.gradle, we had nothing to do. So let's go to gradle.properties, Minecraft version. Yarn mapping became 1.21 plus build.2. Fabric version became 0.100.1 plus 1.21. The loader version didn't change. We changed our Minecraft version on our version. And then the versioning related to different dependencies. My own library, I didn't update it because in front of the camera when I'm recording, I want to guide you on how to develop your own mod library and how to use it in future. So we didn't tweak anything here yet. libgui is still not updated. However, energy version for energy API became 4.1.0, and this is for Minecraft 1.21. Tech Reborn is updated, so Reborn course for the Reborn core became 543713, and Tech Reborn itself became 543714. PAL is updated for the recent version, became 1.10.0. REI is still not updated. However, last night Cloud API was updated to version 15.0.127. If you go into Modrinth and looking at the versioning, you will see that it says .fabric. This is related to Modrinth. Basically, Modrinth is not allowing two packages being updated into the mod with the same version. She Daniel had to add this at the end of each versions. However, you should drop it and just keep the number. Now, architecture is updated to 13.01. I will talk about architecture in a few minutes. Terraform MC for wood became 11.0.0-alpha-1. Although I talked about not using alpha versions, however, this is the only version we have for 21, so we will use it. Terra Blender became 4.0.0.1. However, there is something here that we should take a note inside build.gradle, and we will talk about it in a few minutes. Kryptonite is not updated yet. Jade was updated to 54.27.8.40. Mod menu is updated to 11.0.0-rc.2, and the badges is not being updated, but it changed its compatibility to 21, so we know that it will work. Now, coming back to build.gradle on our dependencies, we had to comment few things. First, REI. We had to comment it. Although architecture was updated, and although REI itself is using architecture, I commented it because I didn't want my mod to depend on architecture. However, remember, if you will add your dependency to REI, especially if you uncomment this line, runtime only, this means that in gameplay time, you will see REI. That is when you have to uncomment the architecture and resync your Gradle. If your mod is not specifically use architecture, then when you want to publish your mod at the end of your development cycle, you will comment this mod runtime only, and you will comment architecture at the end of the road. Now that we don't have REI, there was no reason for me to keep architecture right now. Remember, if the only thing you are doing is mod compatibility for REI, again, I'm telling you, when your programming cycle is finished, comment this line and comment this line. Refresh your Gradle, resync your Gradle, and then build your mod, because you don't want your mod to be dependent on architecture. Think about it. I may have a game instance and the only thing I'm adding to the game is my own mod, and I want to have a game test play, and I don't want to have REI. Why should I install architecture? If you keep this line uncommented, it would force me to install architecture side by side my own mod. However, I'm not using architecture, so why should I have it in the list? I uncommented the two lines for playing the game with Tech Reborn because it was updated, I commented the line for libgui. Now, here's the thing. Right now, we are not using libgui in any shape or any form. If we had some parts of our mod that was using libgui, we couldn't just comment this line and say everything is good. Our own mod wouldn't play inside the idea or even wouldn't build. If you want to get rid of dependencies, calling a dependency like libgui or kryptonite or anything else actually is a tough decision making situation, especially on things like libgui. Vanilla is providing a way to develop your own GUI stuff and handle your GUI in a very proficient way. Yes, libgui lets you have the GUI much easier and with more flexibility, provided you can get that flexibility from vanilla, but with a headache. Now think about it. If at any time in future the developer of libgui decides that real life became a thing and I can't maintain my mod, so I will drop maintaining libgui and no one will pick the mod up, libgui will die. Well, it's not today, maybe not anytime in future. I'm talking in general. When you are depending on a mod like this, think about something. Is it possible to do it in vanilla way alone? If it is possible, then maybe I want to make it using vanilla code. If it's not possible, then yes, I may want to take a look at how I can use libgui at that time. Maybe you would pick libgui up and continue upgrading it. Now, thankfully, as I said, libgui is not one of these cases, but I had seen few cases back in the old days. Be aware of this decision making. Same thing can be said about signs and boats using Terraformer MC-root. And you may want to use Terraformer or you may want to use the vanilla way. It's up to you. For time being, we will use Terraformer. If at any time they dropped it, yes, we have a way to make it by vanilla. Terra Blender is used for biomes. Remember, I said something special about Terra Blender, and that is that the versions should have Minecraft version dash the version number. Previously, it was there, but right now, I just made the decision that Terraformer should only have the mod version, and I can use the project Minecraft version from Gradle.properties myself, putting a dash here and then the version for Terra Blender. Kryptonite is not updated, and again, because we are not using it yet, we can comment that. And we already talked about my library, and the rest are updated. After putting these comments and to-dos for tracking the changes, you should resync your Gradle, and when it was finished, you should generate your sources. Finally, after that, you should come back in Fabric mod JSON. Because we commented REI from our entries, if you take a look, I removed REI. You should do that and be aware of it. Also, for Minecraft version, you should use 1.21. Previously, we had 1.20.6. Blah. It should become 1.21, even for your own mod. Finally, we can go back to our code. Well, as I said, I removed the compatibility for REI, so everything in the class became a comment until I can make REI work with this version of Minecraft. Then comes the reference. Now remember, we had this identifier. It was saying new identifier mod ID path, and we already understood that we can use .of without the new keyword. I changed that one. Also, I added another copy of it and made it named vanilla ID, that is saying identifier.of vanilla. I can make another copy of it and say ID of. And here I will just use identifier.of. This is so that I can just come back and change few lines of code in future if that changed again. Now in tags, we were using new identifier, especially on helper methods. Remember, it was identifier.blob, but here we had new identifier and we had C. Now we have identifier of C and name. Remember, we had try parse and we could do that. If you want, you can use try parse and you see it has the string namespace and string path, and that's exactly what I will do here. Same thing happened in the item helper, and I used of, but I will make it try parse. Make sure that the name is correct. And finally, inside the entity, again, identifier try parse. These are for the common ones. Remember, we had translations for tags. Thankfully, the common ones are being translated by itself. So here we have only hammer blacklist. If I come back here, you see that I have tag, block, my mod ID, hammer blacklist, and a translation. Then I had three for the item, and finally I have two for entity. And this is the translation for tuner blacklist. And the last one is Ruby Sword Ignites. I will call this one a little bit differently. I will call it Ruby Sword Whitelist and Ruby Sword Whitelist. And finally, I have to add the translation here again on the entity, and it will become Ruby Sword Whitelist. I will paste it Ruby space capital S space capital W. And that's our translation files for that. Other than these few changes on identifier here, we had nothing to do on reference. Now comes the hard part. Mod recipe provider had tons of calls for wherever I was calling the identifiers, like here. Every time I was offering to exporter, I had new identifier of the vanilla. So I changed it to my static method of vanilla ID, and God, there was tons of these. Just this replacement in this single class took me about 10 to 12 minutes. And that was the only change. Every time we had new identifier, I changed it to vanilla ID. The problem comes one in the mod loot table provider and then two other classes. Remember, there was no entry inside the blog post for mod loot table. I found about it when I tried to run the client. Previously, we had something here for custom or drop in front of drops with silk touch. Now, if I come back to fabric block loot table provider, middle mouse click on it, you see that it extends block loot table generator. And we were using it in front of this drop with silk touch. And now if I middle mouse click on this guy, you will see that it became an abstract class. There was no entry in blog post about this. However, if you recall, we were copying the copper drop from this class. I just copied the whole thing again. I came back and pasted the whole thing again and reorganized it. Then, because we already are inheriting from fabric block loot table, and fabric block loot table is extending the base abstract class, this drop with silk touch that is not a static is accessible to us directly. So now I just call the method. Everything is okay except the last line. We were directly using enchantment.fortune and things changed because now we have IMPL for enchantment that says this.registry lookup get wrapper or throw for the enchantment. And now we are utilizing this IMPL saying or drops IMPL that gets throw enchantments fortune. That was the last line, and don't worry, it's exactly the same thing that is happening here. In here, if I go to the end of the line, you will see that or drops blah 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 blah. So it's the same thing. That was one change that was a little bit hard to track. Took me 1 or 2 minutes. The other changes happened in tuner item and elevator block. Now remember, we were teleporting using another method. And they said that now we should use entity.teleport. The first param is a server word. So we had just these three values and the rest was not there. However, now we have to provide everything. For the server word, we get the word of the entity. Because we made sure that the word is not client, we can safely typecast it to server word. The X, Y, and Z was there. Now we have to put position flags dot values and then entity dot get yaw, entity dot get pitch. Same thing is happening for teleporting down and up. Both are doing the same thing. On tuner item again, we had the teleportation. Now we use entity.teleport, and here we use the same thing, server word of the entity.getWord, x, and instead of the lookup, we have position.getY, and the same thing for the rest of the parameters. After the teleportation, we refresh the position. And now everything works like before, both for the elevator and the tuner. We still have the problem with villagers on tuner item, and we still have the problem with sneaking on the elevator block. However, if we go into the game and run the client right now, everything is okay, and we can continue our life with the next tutorials in future. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.